This is a MACD indicator. I'm sure you're all familiar with the MACD, very popular indicator. But I'm looking for an indicator that does a little bit more than this. Let me bring up the properties of that. The MACD compares two moving averages, a fast EMA and a slow EMA, and then creates a signal which is the moving average of that difference between the two. On MetaTrader 5, you also get this option on the applied price, being closing price. MetaTrader 4 doesn't have this option. So MetaTrader 4 just uses the closing price. There are two things I want that this doesn't allow me to do. First is that sometimes I don't want to use the EMA. I might want to use a standard moving average or a weighted moving average of some kind. So I'd like an indicator that allows me to choose the moving average method. And for the apply to price, I don't necessarily want to set that for both moving averages the same way. I want the option to have a different applied price for each of the two moving averages. So that's the first thing I want to do. And that's rather simple. The next thing I would like an indicator to be able to do is more important to me, and that is to use the same moving average but shifted in time. So I might want to have a 12-period moving average compared to the same moving average from 6 periods ago. And you simply can't do that with the MACD. So today I'm going to write an indicator that gives me all of those features. Now fortunately, MetaQuotes provide a sample MACD indicator both with MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5. I've got it open here in the MetaTrader 4 editor. So rather than write my own indicator from the beginning, I can simply use this and extend this MACD indicator to do the extra things that I want. Now I'm going to be doing this both for MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5, but because they're separate files, there isn't any common code. I actually have to do everything twice. I'm going to be changing the color scheme for MetaTrader 5. So let me just change to that. So for MetaTrader 5, I'll be using the dark color scheme so that you can tell when I'm looking at the MetaTrader 5 editor or the MetaTrader 4 editor. There's a lot that's common between these two indicators, but there are also some important things that are different. So firstly, let me go to indicators here, Orchard, and I've already created this folder MACDE for extended. What I'm going to do is copy this MACD from MetaTrader 4, the MACD supplied here, and I'm going to copy that into my folder and rename it. So I'll just drag and drop that in there. I don't want to modify the original because that is supplied by MetaQuotes, and they will release new versions of that from time to time, which might override any changes that I make. So I'm making my own copy of that. I'm just calling that MACD-E. And that comes directly from the indicators folder here, the original. It's under indicators MACD. On MetaTrader 5, it's in a slightly different place. It's still under indicators, but then it's inside the examples folder there. And you'll find the MACD.mq5 here. I'm going to do the same there. I'm going to copy that into my MACD-E folder. And just rename that to MACD-E. And now I can open that in MetaTrader 5, and I can also open it in MetaTrader 4. And so far it's exactly the same as the original MACD because I haven't made any changes. Now I'm not going to be making a lot of changes inside this code. I'm going to leave it largely running as is, except for the changes that I need to make to add the enhancements, but I will just change this comment block. Just to indicate I'm still saying it's come from MetaQuotes, but I've made modifications to this. Right, and now I can start making changes inside the code. First, and this is not necessary, but I'm going to replace these variable names from fast EMA and slow EMA just to fast MA and slow MA because I'm not necessarily using an extended moving average. I'm just going to do a global replace, so I'll cut away in the editor while I do this. Okay, we're back now and I've made all of the changes. The fast EMA and slow EMA have all been changed to fast MA and slow MA. And I've done the same already in MetaTrader 5 where I've replaced fast EMA and slow EMA here. Next I need to add inputs for the moving average method and the moving average applied price. And that's as simple as adding some new inputs here. So I've added the inputs and done a little formatting while I was at it. So as well as the fast MA period, I now have a fast method and a fast applied price, and I'm using the enums for these, enum MA method and enum applied price, so that you get a nice drop down in the input box. And I'm setting the defaults to mode EMA and price close so that they match the typical defaults for a MACD. And I've done the same for the slow MA. There's a slow method and a slow applied price. And then the final thing I need to do in the inputs is create an input for the slow shift. So I'm going to say that any shift is always applied to what's called the slow moving average. Although when you run this, there's no reason why this has to be a different period to the fast moving average. They could be the same period. And that's just an integer, input slow shift. And again, the default for that is 0, so that if you took all of the defaults, this would work just like a standard MACD. And now if I go to MetaTrader 5, I'm going to make all the same changes here, but there is already this input applied price. I mentioned that MetaTrader 5 already allows you to set a price. I don't want to use that. I want to use a different price for the fast and the slow. So I'm going to be taking this line out and just replacing these with the same things that I've done in MetaTrader 4. So now in MetaTrader 5, I have fast MA, fast method, fast applied price, slow method, and slow applied price. And I've added this shift. And I've just commented out this line for the input applied price. Now back to MetaTrader 4, the next thing I'm going to do is change this indicator short name. And this is entirely optional because it really is just cosmetic on the screen, but I'm going to change it so that I also show the shift number. Now that's made the line run off the screen a little, but if I scroll, all I've really done here after the integer to string input slow MA, I've added the input slow shift. So now when that shows on screen, it will show fast period, slow period, shift, and signal period. And now I'll do the same thing in MetaTrader 5, but the syntax is a little bit different. You can see here that in MetaTrader 5, they have built up a short name variable. Copy of that. I'll leave the old one there commented out, and all I need to do is add here input slow shift as an extra argument, and then I need one more %d in the string format. Now back to MetaTrader 4, and there is also this line checking the input parameters, and I need to change that because with the shift I think it's perfectly reasonable that the slow moving average could be equal to the fast moving average period. So I'm just going to change this, and I also want to add a condition to check that the shift is not negative. As usual, I'll just comment out the original so that you can see what goes there. And all I've done here is, instead of comparing input fast MA greater than or equals input slow MA, I'm just making that greater than. So you still shouldn't have a fast period that's greater than the slow period. You should reverse them if you're going to do that. But you should not have a shift of less than 0. And that finishes the changes in the onInit function for MetaTrader 4, but there is a change yet to be made to MetaTrader 5. And the change is here because when setting up these handles to the indicators in MetaTrader 5, the periods have been passed in, but they've fixed the mode to EMA, and they have this single applied price where I want a different applied price for the fast and the slow. As with the others, I'm just going to comment out the original lines so that you can see the differences. So I'm replacing that mode EMA with the fast method and the slow method from the inputs. And I'm replacing the single applied price input with the fast applied price and the slow applied price. Now back to MetaTrader 4, into the on calculate section, and the next change I need to make is here. If you're applying a shift, then I want to make sure I don't exceed the number of bars that are available, so I need to limit this, or I need to restrict the size of this loop if you are using a shift. So all I'm doing to restrict that is limit minus input slow shift, and if the shift is 0, then this will be the same as the line originally. But if you do use a shift, then this will reduce the size of the loop. And then while we're in MetaTrader 4, the calculation methods are different between 4 and 5. Where in MetaTrader 5 I changed these inputs for the indicator once in the beginning, in MetaTrader 4 this call is made in the onCalculate function. So I'm just going to modify this. Again, I'm making a copy so that I can change or leave the original there for you to see. And all I've done, exactly as with MetaTrader 5, I've replaced this mode EMA with the fast and the slow method, and I've replaced price close with fast applied price and slow applied price. And there's one more change I need to make in here. To allow for the shift, I want to move the slow value by the amount of that slow shift. So instead of retrieving value number I, I'm retrieving I plus input slow shift. Now back to MetaTrader 5, again in the onCalculate, I also have to change the loop that we're going to process. Leave the old line there. So what I'm changing here is for int I equals start is now becoming int I equals start plus input slow shift. In MetaTrader 5 the buffers are in reverse order, or rather in MetaTrader 4 they're in reverse order, depends which way you want to look at it. So in MetaTrader 4 element number 0 of these buffers matches bar number 0, so it's on the right hand side. In MetaTrader 5, unless you specifically make a change, element number 0 will be on the left of screen, so we're counting in an opposite direction. So I'm simply saying for int I equals start plus input slow shift here, while I is less than rates total. And as I said earlier, the indicators are already set up, so I've already made the changes to use different methods of moving average and different applied prices, but I still need to apply that shift when I'm getting the values back. Again, left the old line, made a copy of that so that you can see the difference. It's still the fast moving average buffer minus, but at this time the slow moving average buffer for I minus the input slow shift. So I'm picking up a different element from the slow moving average buffer. And that gets me the difference between the current fast moving average and a shifted slow moving average. Now, I believe if I've done everything correctly, I should be able to compile this. Now, although that's compiled, there's one thing that I forgot in the MetaTrader 5 version. If I'm going to be using different methods for moving average, I need to make sure there are enough bars to calculate. The exponential moving average is a little bit tolerant, but the simple moving average is not so tolerant, and I'll get an error if I begin with not enough bars to calculate. So where I modified this start plus input slow shift, I'm also adding plus input slow MA. So that means you'll lose a few bars at the very left of the chart, but you're probably not going to be interested in bars that old anyway. Without that, there's potential that you'll get an error when drawing the chart with something other than the exponential moving average. Back to MetaTrader 4, I should be able to compile this. That's it. And now if I go to the screen, now here I am on the MetaTrader 5 screen. So this is the original MACD built into MetaTrader that I have on screen. And here is the MACD extended. The inputs, if I leave them as standard, then these will match the existing MACD. So 12 and 26, exponential, closing price, 0 shift, and a 9-period signal. And here is the custom MACD showing at the bottom of the screen. You can see that I've changed the name, so it's now 122609. I probably should change this to MACD-E. Right, I've done that now. It says MACD-E 122609, so I have a shift of 0. If I go back to the inputs, I am now able to change this so that the slow moving average is the same as the fast moving average. And if I do that with nothing else, then we get a blank indicator because there's no difference between the two moving averages. but I can apply a shift, and I'll apply a shift of 6 periods. And now I get a somewhat different indicator. And if you're familiar with Ichimoku, you'll be used to the idea of using the same indicator shifted by a period to give you an indication whether the moving average or the indicator you're looking at is going up or down. And that's what I'm seeing here. When I'm below the line, it means that the current moving average is below where the moving average was some time ago. And of course I can do things like compare a 12 period fast moving average exponential with a 12 period simple moving average, and so on. So more flexibility there, some very simple changes using the existing MACD indicator that's supplied with MetaQuotes. If you found this useful, please click the like button. If you want to see more of our content, then click subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when we release new videos. Thank you for watching.